Hi, welcome to the JimRPG show. It's May the 8th, 2020. We've got a ton of gaming news to cover today. Today we're going to be talking about Naughty Dog. They've released a Last of Us Part 2 trailer, and Microsoft have released some gameplay videos on the Xbox Series X. And finally, Nintendo, they've released their financial year results for financial year covering up to March 2020. So a ton of stuff to talk about today, and let's get straight into it. Now, as I've said, Naughty Dog, they've released the Last of Us Part 2 trailer, so let's take a look and check it out.
I know you wish things were different. I wish things were different. Ellie! But they ain't.
Please stop! I'm leaving tomorrow.
To do this smart, we'd be leaving Jackson vulnerable.
So they just get to get away with this?
How'd you find us?
You can't stop this.
I want what you want. But not at any cost. I really hope you make it.
I have to finish it.
There's a cost.
We could have killed you. Maybe you should have. PlayStation.
Alright, so as you can see, it's going to be released on the 19th of June, and that was an amazing trailer. I didn't have that much interest in the game previously, but now I'm also kind of excited about it. I wasn't that interested because I was a bit lukewarm on the first The Last of Us. It kind of was a game that I didn't really get that into. I wasn't that interested in the level design, and I thought Joel played like a little bit of a slower Nathan Drake, and I just kind of enjoyed the Uncharted series more. It just felt like it was Uncharted with the slower Nathan Drake and with some zombies. But, you know, Naughty Dog, they're cleverly playing into their strengths here with The Last of Us Part 2, and they're really emphasizing the story and furthering the plot. The story trailer makes the game look very, very interesting. It kind of looks like there's going to be some sort of rogue military or mercenaries that are coming out to get something that Ellie or Joel has, and it was really only about the first 30 or 40 seconds that there were zombies involved in the game. So I don't really know how long zombies or how much they will be involved in this game. It looks as though Ellie will be fighting some sort of soldiers, which is always kind of interesting. Like these games, like Naughty Dog, are the Uncharted games. They have Nathan Drake fighting thousands of professional soldiers, and here we have. I'm not saying Ellie couldn't, but they have this one versus like 1,000 type of mentality that thousands of people can't stop one person. So they basically turned Ellie into Rambo, basically. But yeah, the game, at least the story part, looks exciting. I'm not 100% sure on the gameplay still. I still need to see more. It looks like it's going to be very gruesome and very violent again, which is not something that I really enjoy in my games, unless, well, you know, if it's like in Resident Evil, you know, you're killing a bunch of zombies, that seems fine. But when you're killing actual people, yeah, it can get kind of intense, and especially now, like a lot of these people look so lifelike. It's just a bit weird to see. There was one shot that I actually wanted to go back into in this trailer to just analyze it a bit more closely, and Ellie was having a struggle, a physical struggle, with somebody and a knife. So let me see if I can try and you see here, yeah, it's just pretty gruesome that she just stabs this dude and then throws him off the balcony. So we already know Ellie has a bit of a love interest in the game. And this is what I want to know, is who is this person here? Looks like it's Ellie. This looks like it's Ellie. I don't know who this person is. Seems like she might be a prominent figure. So yeah, we just need more information about this game. So yeah, the Last of Us Part 2, the official story trailer, definitely hypes up the game, and yeah, I'm sure it's going to do really well. Now, The Last of Us, I believe it sold around about 20 million copies, both on the PS3 and the PS4 remaster, and if I was to predict, I would probably say that this will be the best-selling game on the PlayStation 4. There's been so much hype about this game over the last couple of years, and I think it will do really well in terms of Metacritic. So I see no reason why this isn't going to be a huge hit again for Sony. Okay, let's talk about Microsoft now. And today they had an Inside Xbox event where they showcased a bunch of Xbox Series X games and so-called gameplay. But first of all, I think it's important to talk about what they mean when they say optimized for Xbox Series X. So I'm just going to read out what it is on their official website. So it says, optimized for Xbox Series X, games featuring the optimized for Xbox Series X badge will showcase unparalleled load times, heightened visuals, and steadier frame rates at up to 120 frames per second. These include new titles built natively using the Xbox Series X development environment, as well as previously released titles that have been rebuilt specifically for Xbox Series X. This is a shot from Bright Memory, if I'm not mistaken. which is also shown in their trailer showcase of games today. So it says amazing visual fidelity, powered by hardware accelerated DirectX ray tracing, a first for consoles. So interesting, they pair it with bright memory, so it looks like that may have ray tracing then. Select games will produce more dynamic, realistic environments. This means true-to-life lighting and accurate reflections in real time with true 4K as you explore the game world. Next generation frame rates. Games that have been optimized for Xbox Series X use the full power of the new console to deliver higher, steadier frame rates at up to 120 FPS while playing. And they've paired it with Dirt 5. So Dirt 5 will most likely have up to 120 FPS. I've played Dirt Rally, and Dirt Rally has pretty amazing graphics and has great performance as well. So I definitely see Dirt 5 as something that could easily handle 120 FPS, especially on the 12 teraflop console. But is it 4K 120 FPS? And you know, that's a possibility. You can definitely get on at least a 6 teraflop card. You can definitely get 1440p at 100 frames per second. So for double a 12 teraflop card, yeah, you could probably do 120. It's only a little bit of a jump up. From 1440p to 4K, it's probably twice the amount of processing power, and yeah, it's going to be close to 120 FPS. Faster load times. The Xbox Velocity architecture combines a custom SSD and integrated software to greatly decrease load times both in and out of games, meaning gamers will be able to spend more time playing and less time waiting. So they paired this with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, obviously as a sort of that is the open world, de facto open world game that people are going to be talking about when they talk about open world games. So a lot of that is dependent on draw distance, and so with the SSD, it will look to be able to draw more detail into the distance. Smart delivery. So smart delivery ensures you only have to purchase a game once to play the best available version for whichever Xbox console you choose to play on. We're committed to using smart delivery on all exclusive Xbox Game Studios titles, including Halo Infinite, and have made this technology available for all developer partners to leverage. When you see the smart delivery icon on games like Cyberpunk 2077, you know when you buy that title, you'll also get the upgraded version of the game for free when it's available. So that's really cool, and something that they're building on from what they did with Xbox One and also the PC, where they had a play anywhere type of scheme. So you could buy the Xbox One version of the game, and it would also work on the Xbox One X, but also it would work on the PC as well if you bought the digital version and had it in your account. But now it looks like they're committing to also doing it for physical discs as well. So it seems as though the disc itself will just be the key, and then you're just going to download the game. So honestly, why would you buy the physical version? So that you can pass it around to your friends. But with the digital version, yeah, if you're just playing by yourself, no reason why you wouldn't just get the digital version, and a lot easier to manage, and no clutter as well. Now, this is a list of games that they announced at their, I guess, Inside Xbox trailer today, and I will just go over the games in more detail, but first you can see that basically every game has 4K, and I wouldn't expect otherwise. In fact, these games, Vampire, the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 and Yakuza Like a Dragon, I would be astonished if those two weren't 4K and Second Extinction. I'd be astonished if they weren't 4K. I really think 4K would be a standard, and they really didn't need to have this column. I guess they just wanted to tell everybody that, yeah, you're getting 4K for everything. They just haven't confirmed it yet, especially for something like Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's a role-playing game, and I don't really see it being that intensive, especially when it's already out on, you can already play it on the base Xbox One and the PS4. So there's no reason why this wouldn't be 4K. HDR, on the other hand, maybe it's not something that's implemented. But definitely 4K. It's just a matter of them re-upping the resolution, which wouldn't take that much effort. But looks like most games, obviously, all the ones that they've announced today would be optimized for Xbox Series X. So in other words, basically Xbox Series X will use the power of the new console to the fullest, like use all 12 teraflops of the console, rather than say taking the Xbox One version of the game and then maybe just upping the resolution, maybe not even using this different textures. But here they will try to optimize it for the Xbox Series X to take into account the full 12 teraflops of performance. And again, smart delivery looks like all of the games that they announced today are, well, most of them will be smart delivery. If Yakuza Like a Dragon, a third-party title, can be smart delivered, then I'm sure the reasons why the others aren't, like the Medium and Scorn and Bright Memory, maybe it's because they're not on Xbox One. So maybe these are newer games and they're just going to release them for the next gen console. But you know, I'm just guessing there, so I don't know 100%. So let's take a look and see what they announced today. And we're not going to play the entire 30-minute video, but we will play a couple of trailers from the show today. But let's go over the games that they had in the trailer today. So today they started off with Bright Memory Infinite. So this was an interesting first-person shooter, and it looks like it was set in China, and it was a really weird sort of time travel style game, because the protagonist had future weaponry, I guess you could call it, guns, while he was battling guys with swords and shields. And it was funny, he was jumping around, flying all over the place, and then it looked like it was set in ancient China, and then he got into a police car at the end of the trailer. So it was a bit of a weird one. We'll be talking more about Dirt 5, so we'll leave that for a bit later. Scorn. I don't really know too much about the Scorn, but it looks like a very scary sort of psychological horror type video game. So I will kind of just leave it up to you guys to go and check out. Now, Chorus is a space simulator, I guess, and it looks pretty cool, I think. Definitely something for space sim players to check out. It looks a little bit more arcadey, so it's kind of like Everspace in that sort of manner. But not too much more to say about it than it being a space sim, but nice to see another space sim, especially out at launch for the Xbox Series X. So Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, I believe has already been announced, but this is a new trailer for Bloodlines 2 and Call of the Sea. We'll talk about those two in a bit, and we'll have a look at their trailers then. The Ascent is a sort of Crusader, No Remorse style, top-down, I guess a bit like Diablo, but with guns and set in science fiction, cyberpunk style sort of world. The graphics look pretty cool, and I think is an interesting title coming out for Xbox Series X. Definitely unlike a lot of other games, but yeah, it depends on if you're interested in a sort of top-down isometric type of shoot 'em up. The Medium is a psychological horror sort of game from the Layers of Fear developers, and this looks pretty cool. Is definitely something that fits a niche into the launch games. Both the Medium and Scorn are kind of the similar sort of psychological horror type of games, but there aren't really too many of them out there, and it's a welcome launch title. Scarlet Nexus is from Bandai, and it's an anime role-playing game. It looked pretty cool at first. They showed off the city of, it looked like a large Japanese city, could be Tokyo, and then it showed off some very, very weird looking monsters, but it looks more of the type of science fiction-y Japanese role-playing sort of game. I think there is an audience for this. I wonder if I'm sure this will be out on PlayStation as well. It seems more like a sort of Japanese gamer style of game, but it's cool that Xbox have gone after these Japanese games and have some of them in their launch game list. Second Extinction. Now, I have no idea how close this is to the Turok developers, but this basically looks like a Turok game, a new Turok game. It's basically first-person shooter where you're just mowing down a bunch of dinosaurs. I guess dinosaurs are back in favor these days with the Jurassic World series, but also with the game Ark on the PC. I think that game is also on consoles. So people who enjoy dinosaurs, there you go. This is a game for you guys. Yakuza Like a Dragon. This is a trailer that we've already seen before, but it's basically an announcement for Xbox Series, that it's coming for Xbox Series X, and there was an announcement from Toshihiro Nagoshi-san, who said that it will be coming for launch for Xbox Series X, which is really interesting. I'll get more into it later, but it could be that it will come out at about the same time on all of the other systems. So you could see this game possibly in November when the Series X launches, but also that we kind of hope that it would come earlier on the PlayStation 4, possibly in like June or July, which is what happened. They reduced the amount of time that they needed for localization down to about 6 months, I think, for Judgment. but it seems as though that maybe they'll hold it off so that they can release it on all of the consoles and PC at the same time. So it could be that this is coming in November. And lastly, they also looked at Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The trailer didn't really show that much more different, so I'm not going to show it today. You can check it out in the trailer yourself. But yeah, it's mostly what we've already seen before. So let's start off with what I thought was the most interesting game that they showed today, which was Call of the Sea. So let's have a look at that.
Oh, Harry. What have you done? I've traveled so very far to find you. How strange that your trail ends here. The very island of my dreams. When you left, I was withering away. But here, on this extraordinary isle, I dare say I've found my strength again. I'm scared of what it means. I feel the call of something deep within. Whispers of things long forgotten. Will we be forgotten too? What did you find here, Harry?
So that was the trailer for Call of the Sea, which I don't believe has been shown before. So even Raw Fury, they have it as their announcement trailer, and it was shown today, May the 7th. So let's have a little bit more look at some other information on the game, and Eurogamer has written that gorgeous 1930s tropical adventure Call of the Sea announced for Xbox Series X. One of the more unusual games during Microsoft's Xbox Series X stream was Call of the Sea, a non-violent mystery adventure set on a tropical island in the South Pacific in the 1930s. In it, you play as a lady called Nora, voiced by Cissy Jones from Firewatch, Walking Dead Season 1, who's on the trail of her missing husband. He went on an expedition to the island and never returned. It's a first-person game based around puzzle solving. Call of the Sea is published by Raw Fury and is the debut game of Spanish studio Out of the Blue, based in Madrid. It's an eye-grabbing game with lush tropical forests and bright beaches, all brought to life with vivid Sea of Thieves-like colouring. It's in this setting we will apparently uncover a weird and otherworldly mystery. And they also say that it's just coming for Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and PC, and there's no mention of PlayStation 4. So it looks like it's going to be an exclusive for a little while. Now, the reason why I thought it was the best looking game was because, sorry, not the best looking game, but the most interesting game is it's trying to do something different that a lot of the other games aren't doing, and it's there are no guns, it's non-violent, and it's just a bunch of puzzles, and mostly because it evokes that sort of feeling that you get when you play games like The Witness or even something like Firewatch. I didn't play Firewatch, but I really enjoyed The Witness, and while the puzzles are not so out there and obvious as The Witness, where it had a bunch of line puzzles and you were just doing the line puzzles, the puzzles in this one look like they're more blended in with the environment, and in The Witness, I think the cool thing about The Witness was there was just a ton of puzzles to solve. Now, you may not like line puzzles, but people who did really enjoyed it because there was just a ton of them. Now, I don't know how many puzzles there are going to be in Call of the Sea, but let's hope that there's quite a lot of them in there. And in the trailer, you get to see some of them, and they're more, I guess, blended into the environment. So I'm quite excited for this one. I'll definitely check it out once it's on PC. But this one was at least looked the most interesting to me from today. Let's talk about Vampire the Masquerade, and let's check out their trailer first. Okay, so I thought this was a really interesting trailer. It's interesting in the way they've gone with their marketing. They now obviously Vampire the Masquerade, maybe they've already done this in the past in their first game, in terms at least the dancing part of the trailer, but they've clearly gone for that sort of Joker type angle in the first part of their trailer, where you see one of the main characters, I think, possibly the main character, dancing. So there's a huge audience out there who really enjoyed Joker, the movie, and they're probably going to see this as something that they're interested in playing. And I think it's also interesting that it's developed by Paradox Interactive, who are mostly known for their 4X, their grand strategy games, I should say, like Stellaris and Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron. But this is another game in their stables, and they don't often put out first person type games. So I think it will be interesting to see how they go with this one. Now, when I look at it, honestly, the graphics don't look very good. You can see, let me see if a lot of them don't have much in terms of polygons or facial textures on them. They look like, I guess, pretty standard PlayStation 4 type of models. And this doesn't look like it needs very complex hardware to run, or that they didn't, I guess, do more with their graphics. It looks pretty basic. Now, even in something like this, you can kind of see that this is pretty basic sort of PS4 level type graphics already. Now, when I was watching this, I felt like this had a very Dishonored type feel to the game. So even though Dishonored is completely different to Vampire's Masquerade, it seemed like you get a lot of special powers, and I feel like people who who liked Dishonored will probably enjoy this game as well. And oh yeah, another thing I wanted to mention was that looks like there are some Mirror's Edge style of parkour type chase scenes in this game as well. But you know, Vampire the Masquerade definitely has a following online, and the people who've been waiting for this game, yeah, I know that they're very excited about it. So I think this will be one that will do really well at the end of the year. And that's Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Now let's see if there's any more information here. Now, right, so let's take a look at this US Gamer article about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. And it says that Bloodlines, the first one, was actually from 2004. So it's been a heck of a long time, about 15 years. That's probably why we keep hearing about the game. And you know, even though I said before, a lot of this looks like a PS4 levels type of graphics, that's probably still a huge jump up from the people who played the first game. So I think that's what I was saying before when they were making a play on the dance moves, because in the article they've said, also making a return, the wonderfully silly dance moves of the original. Check out the guy practically power dabbing in the club scene. As the Bloodlines experience gets polished up and fine-tuned for a new generation of consoles, I'm happy that some of the quirky aspects that made the first game so unique are sticking around. It'll be a blast to hit the dance floor again. There's some information here. Hardsuit Labs and publisher Paradox Interactive announced last October that Bloodlines 2 would still be aiming for a 2020 release, but would fall to later in the year. The delay was to avoid some of the issues that plagued the original, a beloved but buggy RPG, and to deliver a quality game at launch. We know the consequences of effing this up, Martin Kai Clooney, creative director on Bloodlines 2, told US Gamer last year. Okay, so yeah, a game from about 15 years ago is getting a sequel. So yeah, that's pretty exciting for its fans. Alright, let's check Dirt 5. I've played the Dirt series quite a bit in the past, so let's talk about this game. Okay. Alright, now if you're a fan of Dirt the series, both Dirt and Dirt Rally, you'll know that Dirt and Dirt Rally games are pretty different. Now, with Dirt 5, this game looks like it's a Forza Horizon style game. Maybe they knew that Forza Horizon wasn't coming to the Xbox this year. Maybe they thought they would take its place with a Dirt 5 game, Codemasters anyway, because that's essentially what this game looks like. You know, a bunch of races in the sunset, a bunch of terrain like the snow and the muddy areas and the countryside that you see. Everything about the trailer that we saw looked like the first 15 minutes of Forza Horizon 4, where you're driving through the different seasons in the game. That's kind of the look that they were going for with this trailer, hoping to get a lot of the Forza Horizon gamers to get them interested in the game. And I guess that's good strategy. I mean, even here, look, they've gone with the whole seasons and weather effects type of, I guess they're promoting that sort of gameplay. Now, I think Dirt is, the problem with Dirt is that it's a jack of all trades type of game, and a lot of Dirt Rally fans, that's the problem that they have with Dirt in general, is that it tries to do a bit of everything and then it doesn't do one thing well enough. So all of the Dirt Rally fans, all they want is to just do more hardcore rallies in terms of doing point-to-point races. But when they get a mainline Dirt game, then the problem is that one time you're going to be driving with a dune buggy, and then the next time you're going to be driving around in a rally car, and the next time you're going to be driving around in a stock car. I think a lot of the Dirt Rally fans just feel like that they want to do point-to-point races. So this game is supposed to appeal to a broader audience. The issue I think Codemasters generally has is that the two audiences don't overlap as much as the Forza fans overlap. So with Dirt Rally and Dirt, the Dirt Rally fans don't get excited when a new Dirt is announced. They get excited when a Dirt Rally game is announced. And similarly, the players who play Dirt, they find that Dirt Rally is a bit too difficult for them, and also that Dirt is more fun and maybe a little bit more forgiving. You can definitely see they try to emphasize the sort of fun that you can have in this trailer. So that's the thing, like the Dirt Rally fans don't get into Dirt, which they keep on trying to push, I think, for Codemasters, but not very successfully. And honestly, this game kind of looks like it could have been, there's no difference whether it was on PS4 or Xbox One or on Xbox Series X. You see at a lot of console launches, there's always a racer game, and the races are really fun and usually make the most of the new hardware. But it seems like, at least in terms of how it looks, it doesn't look any different to the PS4 and Xbox version, but it will have obviously better frame rates, as they've been touting on their main page, that this title will probably have 120 FPS. So let's take a look and see what US Gamer has written, and they've gone for a very different angle on Dirt 5, and they've said Dirt 5 revealed and is set to feature some very familiar voices. Two of gaming's biggest stars will feature heavily in Dirt's next career mode. Where are we? Where's this part? Okay. Carp also announced that Baker and North, oh, sorry, let me start again. Horsepower usually takes precedence in driving games over star power, but Codemaster evidently wants to have both. Today, the developers unveiled Dirt 5 and announced that amongst its assembled voice talent, video game mainstays Troy Baker and Nolan North will play big roles in its new career mode. Carp also announced that Baker and North will play the career mode leads in Dirt 5, playing the nemesis and protagonist respectively. The two performers, both prolific lead actors in games, have collaborated in more than just Uncharted 4. They also host a YouTube gaming Let's Play channel called Retro Replay together. Dirt 5 will also feature Donut Media, another YouTube channel that will be instantly familiar to automotive culture fans. Codemasters also promises additional involvement from more famous names from the automotive world. Maybe we'll get to see Baker trade barbs with some well-known gearheads. It's interesting that they write here is that Dirt 5 is actually making its way to just about every platform. It'll come to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X starting in October, presumably a bit later on next gen if those systems launch closer to the holidays. So yeah, it's interesting that some have written that it's for PS4, PS5, and Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and some titles, they don't include PS4, PS5. Okay, so I think the biggest takeaway from this article is that Dirt 5 seems to emphasize that there's going to be a story in the career mode. And to be honest, it's always a little bit weird when driving games or even sport games try to do career modes with a storyline involved. I always feel like it's a little bit unnecessary. If I want to play a game with story, I'm going to go and play The Last of Us. I'm not going to want to sit through a bunch of story scenes from, even if it has Nolan North and Troy Baker. But I guess, you know, at the moment, Nolan North and Troy Baker, they have a pretty high profile and they may be able to draw gamers in, but honestly I don't really see people buying this game for Nolan North and Troy Baker, and I don't really see people who want to play Dirt to want to actually have a story. At least that's my take anyway. I could be wrong. We've seen some Need for Speed games in the past go with a story mode, and they haven't turned out that great. Okay, another game they talked about in the Xbox Series X reveal today was Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, Neat from Resetera has correctly pointed out that RGG Studio, the people who make Yakuza, that in their tweet they've said that Yakuza Like a Dragon launches in the West later this year on Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Windows 10 PC, PlayStation 4 and Steam, but there's no mention of PS5. Now I think that's pretty interesting. Again, I don't think that's an indication that this is a timed exclusive just yet. Maybe in the next couple of days people will ask Microsoft and Microsoft will confirm, and I'm sure that they will if they indeed paid for it, because why wouldn't you tell everybody if you paid for something exclusivity like this? You'd want everybody to know. So I still think it will probably come out on PlayStation 5. At least that's what I'm leaning to. But now there is a possibility there is a timed exclusive deal on this, and I don't think that should be ignored, because it's very possible that maybe the PlayStation 4 release comes earlier, and Xbox Series X will get the exclusive rights for the next gen version. Now, technically, the PlayStation 4 version will probably work backwards compatible on PlayStation 5 anyway, because a lot of games are set to work on PlayStation 5, but it's not 100% confirmed, and neither is a lot of Xbox One games will work, but it's not the complete number of Xbox One games that work completely, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not complete 100% hardware compatibility. It still needs to be confirmed by the developers. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, my guess is because PS5 has not announced its lineup yet. So that's probably true that I guess they will also do a separate announcement for the PlayStation 5 game. PlayStation 5 Yakuza Like a Dragon announcement. But who knows? I think this is one to really keep an eye out on, because Xbox have been needing a lot of Japanese games in the past, and with the Yakuza titles coming out on Game Pass, it seems like they're clearly targeting Yakuza as one of the games that they believe will get more Japanese gamers on their system. Let's talk about some inside Xbox reactions from Resetera. I'm just going to pick some of these at random. This is on basically the last page, and I posted a comment as well. So a lot of people are actually saying that they expected more, especially in terms of next gen graphics and next gen gameplay. They felt like they were just seeing current gen titles that could have been like from last year's E3, for example. So Aaron Tongo writes, imagine telling the world to get ready for next gen gameplay, then delivering absolute utter garbage in that regard. If they had called it an event to show cross-gen games, then maybe it wouldn't be bad. But TLOU 2 looks way better than anything showcased in the event. Like, way better. Now, I don't think it looked way better, but I guess there is some truth there that there was a misconception or a miscommunication between when the people marketing for Xbox were telling everybody that there was going to be an Xbox Series X gameplay showcase, and then it turned out to be mostly games that were going to launch at the end of the year anyway. And you know, as I've said before, it's kind of hard to tell the next generation leap if you're just looking at it from real time. You have to kind of look at it from a historical perspective to actually see the next gen differences. For example, I mean, yes, there have been some cases where the launch games are much better looking than the previous gen, but it's not always the case. And when you look at, say, like PS1 or PS2 or PS3 even, some of the earlier games from, especially the launch games from those consoles, didn't look anything like the games that came out later on in the gen. So it was only after, say, like a year or 2 years where you would see, wow, okay, we're really seeing next gen footage from this console. Let's read this one from I'm Caprica. This presentation was a disappointment for me, and it has nothing to do with the games, which I thought looked good. I acknowledge the takes I've seen here and in games media that bigger third-party studios are going to save their stuff for their own events. Xbox knows that. They know what they're working with. So when Xbox goes onto social media to call this a game changer, it needs to feel like a game changer. The typical carefully worded Xbox doublespeak doesn't actually work. It has never worked, and it especially didn't work this time when they tried to shrewdly frame what they meant by gameplay, because they prefaced that by saying that they understand what the interwebs wants. Once they said that and they showed what they showed, I thought, you don't know what the interwebs wants. And to me, even that take is being overly generous because of all the fine print that essentially said, not only is this not gameplay, it's not even a finished Series X. Don't say it's a game changer, and don't tell us you're going to give us the gameplay we want if you're not going to do either of those things. I honestly believe from a purely marketing standpoint, a lot of what works for PlayStation does so because they themselves don't usually set expectations very high. Okay, I don't know about this. And I have no idea why Xbox hasn't figured that out yet. How many times have you seen a dramatic world premiere animation before every trailer in a state of play? Or better yet, before any trailer at a PlayStation press conference? Xbox just needs to pump the brakes. It's okay to just say, here are some third-party games. So obviously people are unhappy about what Xbox have determined as, I guess, gameplay, because if you actually watch the whole show, there was a lot of cutscenes that weren't really gameplay. They might have been rendered in the game engine, but they weren't actual gameplay that people could, somebody wasn't controlling it, for example. In fact, where you look at all of those 2-minute trailers, it would be like 15 seconds of somebody talking to somebody else in a cutscene, and then cut with 2 seconds of gameplay footage where you see somebody shooting somebody up. And that's actually it's pretty annoying, to be honest. The problem is that we don't need to be teased, even though they want to tease us. The teasing already happened when they told us, hey, everybody, there's going to be a reveal. That's the teasing part. Now don't give us crumbs again when you actually go and reveal it. So it would have been much better if they came out with a 2-minute trailer of just gameplay, and then that would just be a 30-minute show with like 10 games with 2 minutes of gameplay footage each. Even if it was like that, that would be much better than, say, coming out with a trailer every single time. And maybe they have some marketing statistics to tell them that people want trailers, or the general population, mainstream, want trailers rather than actual gameplay. But for most gamers and people who start the word of mouth, they want to see gameplay. And then when other people, the mainstream, come back and read a lot of this, they might just get a little bit disappointed when they see, oh, well, a lot of people are down about this console, so there's less hype. Obviously, Microsoft have their marketing and they have their data and they know what people want to see. But in terms of hardcore gamers anyway, a lot of them want to see actual gameplay footage. So it seems like Aaron Greenberg, general manager of marketing at Xbox, responded to criticisms. Okay, so let's see what he writes. Okay, Woggerman says they, Xbox, stressed the Inside Xbox event would have gameplay trailers and sneak peeks, not just gameplay like many outlets and YouTubers are saying it was exactly what it was: bright memory, Infinite, Second Extinction, The Ascent, Scarlet Nexus, Call of the Sea, and more had gameplay. Have we not said, Aaron Greenberg writes, have we not said anything and just shown May Inside Xbox show like we did last month? I suspect reactions might have been different. Clearly we set some wrong expectations, and that's on us. We appreciate all the feedback and can assure you we will take it all in and learn as a team. So it's pretty cool that Aaron Greenberg has acknowledged some of these takes, some of these more disappointed takes. And I think there was nothing wrong with the games itself, as people are saying. But yeah, I think they probably needed to learn and manage expectations a little bit better. I didn't have an issue with it because I knew, looking at the specs, that most of the time that they were probably just going to be going from an increased resolution of 1080p on previous gen to 4K, and they're going to spend a lot of their processing power on that. So I expected games to look fairly similar from one generation to the next, but it clearly seems like people thought that Xbox were hyping up games as next generation, and they were going to see next generation games. Okay, so Maple says videos like this are starting to pop up on YouTube, and some are from big channels. Why Xbox Series X games don't look better? Now that we've seen Xbox Series X gameplay, what do you think? Our hands-on with Series X. Okay, so I think I didn't read this. So Maple writes, this can't be the narrative Microsoft wanted coming out of this event. What's most surprising is that they're apparently surprised at the negative reaction. People want to see next-gen gameplay, it's that simple. Not in-engine pre-rendered footage of a smaller third-party cross-platform titles. A video like this would have been fine after showing off the big stuff that showcases what the Series X is capable of doing. But as first look into the system's capabilities, it was a big mistake. I believe I responded to that comment later on. So let me just scroll down and take a look. Right, so here's my take on this at the time. Well, buying an Xbox Series X is like buying a PC. It's an upgrade of the previous hardware. That's the route consoles have chosen to go down. People on YouTube can sometimes want to be contrarian for the sake of standing out. First they wanted 60 frames per second, now they're saying games don't look better. It's just ridiculous at this point. Games don't look better because they're probably watching it on a 1080p TV or PC monitor. Even if they watched it at 4K, it would probably be heavily compressed. They're going to look much better native, but not every game is going to be the generational leap. Certainly not when much of the processing power is spent on 1080p to 4K and 30 FPS to 60 FPS. People should check out launch PS2 games and see how many next-gen games there were. Probably just SSX would be my take. Wasn't until a year or so later we got MGS2 and Gran Turismo 3. It wasn't until 3 or so years later we got Forza Horizon 4 on Xbox One. Probably the best looking game on Xbox, and wouldn't be possible on the 360. So now obviously to add to that, I would agree that many gamers had different expectations of what Microsoft were going to put out today, and yeah, Microsoft needs to manage that a little bit better and not talk about things like gameplay when it's not really gameplay technically, but like a few seconds spliced in here and there onto a much larger cinematic trailer. But in general, I would say that people who complain that the Series X games don't look better, well, I've just basically told you in one sentence why. Because the processing power is spent on from 1080 to 4K and 30 to 60 FPS, and both of those, even though the PS4 Pro was about 4 teraflops, or at least, and then the Xbox One X was 6 teraflop. You're going to need to, if you go to 12 teraflops, that's probably going to take a lot of your processing power to do 4K and 60 FPS. And now the other thing I wanted to mention was that, most of the time when we have a launch, the launch games aren't very good at all. You look back at, say, PS2, which was basically my first launch. They had SSX, and I bought SSX, Tekken, Tag Tournament, and Ridge Racer 5, and Dead or Alive 2 after about 3 weeks. And look how terrible Ridge Racer 5 looks. It looks almost like a PlayStation 1 game. And it was really only after, I guess, about 6 months to a year, we saw footage of MGS2 and Gran Turismo 3 that we realized, okay, those games are next gen. It was only after a while that people developed on the system that we would see them use more of the power of the console. So we probably just need to wait a little bit more. For the time being, games will naturally progress and continue to look better and better. But right now, a lot of this processing power would probably be just spent on 4K and 30 FPS. And later on, games, they will find ways of using that same amount of processing power and doing things more efficiently. This is Jeff Keighley's stream, and he wrote, "Gameplay does not equal in-game footage," and he looks pretty happy about that. So I think overall, if you just take the show, the Inside Xbox show at face value, I thought it was a pretty interesting show. They showed a lot of games. I will go back, and they've got some Japanese games in there. They've got a role-playing game. They've got some horror games. They've got Vampire Masquerade, which will please a lot of old school fans of Vampire, the first game. And they also had the big AAA game Assassin's Creed Valhalla, even though that was basically a nothing trailer. In terms of the games that they revealed, I thought is an interesting set of games for the Xbox Series X lineup. I think by the looks of things, they probably could have managed the expectations a little bit better. But if you're excited for the Series X, this is a good set of games for the launch. So that about does it for the Inside Xbox coverage, and I hope you enjoyed all of that information. So we're going to move on to something else now. So our next article is about the Tokyo Game Show 2020, and they noted today on May the 8th that it's been cancelled. A physical event format to prevent... Tokyo Game Show 2020 cancelled a physical event format to prevent COVID-19 spread, but planned to be held online. So yeah, it's just a basic announcement. A lot of shows have been cancelled, and this was almost to be expected that TGS was going to be cancelled as well. It's about 4 months to go to TGS, and if it's you don't want to leave it till the last minute and annoy everybody, whether it's happening or not, and then people have to cancel their hotel bookings and airline bookings. It's a lot cleaner this way, and most people will be far happier that they cancelled it early rather than later. So this is a good move. Obviously, they didn't take the Tokyo Olympic Committee's where they stalled it a number of times from delaying it, and that the Olympic Games probably should have been postponed a lot earlier than it should have been. But yeah, so if the Olympics can be postponed in Tokyo, you can bet that the TGS would probably be cancelled as well. I still need to go to this game show. I would love to. This is my the thing that I want to do the most in terms of the game shows that I want to go to. And yeah, I'm gonna try and go one day, but obviously it doesn't look like it will be happening this year. So maybe, well, I was never going to go to it this year, but yeah, maybe next year would be a good time to go. Right, let's look and see. Let's talk about Nintendo. We've talked about Sony and Microsoft today. Let's talk about Nintendo now. There's so much news today to cover. I don't even know how long we've gone on for now. Maybe more than an hour at this point. But Nintendo, they've released their fiscal year financial results. So that's 1 year's worth of results. So let's check this out. This is on May the 7th. So they talk a bit about coronavirus here. Let's run over quickly on these dollar figures. So they say the net sales have been 13 billion this year, up 9%. So it's 1,300 billion yen, but usually $1 is 100 yen. Roughly or thereabouts. So we'll just keep to that, and then we'll just lop off a couple of zeros, and then we'll talk in US dollars. So this is about 13 billion yen. The operating profit is 3.5 billion yen. 3.5 billion US dollars, and ordinary profit is $3.6 billion. So the difference between operating profit and ordinary profit is something to, and you can go look this up yourselves. So this is it might have to do with like there might be share profit in here that they have I guess investments or taxes where they get some money back. So there's a difference of about 8 billion yen here. But overall, the profit is around 3.5 billion US dollars. Net profit after they take away taxes is 2.5 billion US dollars. And you'll note that the year-on-year increase is 33.3%, which honestly is absolutely insane. Okay, so the consolidated sales, and this is an interesting comparison as to why they have a dedicated video platform and what they're actually doing on mobile, and why they haven't fully gone into mobile, because you can see here that 90% of their, or 95% of their sales are on the Switch and 3DS. Just the two systems alone nets them about 12 billion US dollars, and mobile is netting them about $500 million. So their Switch and 3DS is their number one selling point, and this is basically their golden goose egg right now. And you see a lot of people saying, well, why don't Nintendo go and do more mobile? It's a really fast growing industry. Well, it's because that when they're doing so well, and they'd have to give up some of this, I guess, these resources that are developing video games in order to go and develop more mobile games. So their businesses, one thing with businesses is that you can't just go and do everything that you want, because even if you wanted to do that, the people at the top multitask on that number of projects. So it has to be done at a rate that they can manage. And for Nintendo, mobile will definitely come for Nintendo, and they're moving in that direction. And you see it with Mario Kart and Mario Run and Fire Emblem, that it's doing really well for them. So as I was saying, the mobile games will come along, but they're not going to jeopardize their Switch and 3DS games to make more mobile games. That will be a separate division altogether, and it looks like they're slowly growing that. And this is a pretty good improvement of 11.5% year on year, but really their bulk of the sales, they're doing an extremely good job on their Switch and the 3DS. Now, I wanted to talk about, and also actually, we've already discussed that Nintendo Switch, they sold 21 million units in 2020. They expect to sell 19 million units, which honestly, I think they're going to sell more than that, especially with the way that the coronavirus is keeping people at home. They've already sold, I think, 6 million in the first 4 months of 2020. And if you extrapolate that out, that could be like something like 25-30 million units a year. So I think they're going to do more than the 19 million units here. And I don't quite agree that their software, they say that they sold 168 million units in 2020, that they're only going to sell 140 million units in 2021, unless of course they say that there aren't any more games coming. A lot of the sales that they get, they continually get them for Smash and Kart and all of the typical Mario and Nintendo staple games. They just continually sell, and they sell strongly every year. Now, they've said that in 2019, they sold 16.95 million units of the Nintendo Switch, and in 2020, they sold 14.83 million units of the Nintendo Switch, but they sold 6.19 million units of the Switch Lite. So there are a lot of handheld portable players that also, there's a niche, it's not a niche anymore. There's a lot of portable players that want something a little bit more than a mobile. And Sony isn't providing anything on that front. It's really that Nintendo has the entire market to themselves now. I wonder if Sony will come back with something when they see that the Nintendo Switch Lite sells 6 million units in 2020. That looks like a big market. And I don't think Sony would say, hey, we're just going to leave that to Nintendo. It's, if they do that, then Nintendo can just capture the whole market for a long period of time, and it's going to be very hard to take back these users. Now, we were talking about Animal Crossing in the last couple of episodes of the JimRPG show, and we was talking about the sales numbers for Animal Crossing, and it looked like it was about 6 to 7 million units for Animal Crossing, which was a pretty reserved estimate. And now we know that it sold 13.41 million units in the first 6 weeks. And you can see in this graph that Animal Crossing on the DS sold what looks to be about 2 million units in the first 6 weeks, and then about 8 million units in its lifetime. For Animal Crossing 3DS, it sold about 3 million units for the first 6 weeks, and about another 8 million units in lifetime. But the astronomical growth that is incredible for Animal Crossing New Horizons, coming a little bit earlier on the Nintendo Switch than I think on the 3DS and the DS for Animal Crossing did in their lifetime. It's come at a point where Nintendo are really good now at spacing out their games and giving its fan base exactly what it wants at exactly the right time. So you see them always coming out with a Zelda game now at launch, because these are the most core players from their fan base, and they're the people that they want to buy the system at first. The Zelda players will always buy a Nintendo system no matter what. Then they come out with Mario, which leans a little bit more casual than Zelda, and then they come out with Smash, which is a little bit more casual again, and then they come out with games like Pokemon and Animal Crossing, which is further down on the casual list. So they will start with the core gamers and work their way to the casual gamers. And it seems as though Nintendo are also getting better at getting all of their fans to buy all of their first party titles. So you see, even though Zelda and Mario, they didn't do as well as Animal Crossing, for example, they help Nintendo to sell more of its casual games, which in turn gets more mainstream people into the system. So even though you see Zelda and Mario sell 1 or 2 million units at launch, those same people are buying Animal Crossing and Pokemon and Smash, Mario Kart, and this strategy that they repeated, even though they did it on Wii U, didn't work because the hardware wasn't so great. It was great on Wii, and it was great on 3DS, and it seems to be working well on the Switch for them. Now, I think a lot of this has to do with the digital sales. I think a lot of this has to do with people being locked down at home and not being able to go out. And also the fact that people are just moving on to a digital lifestyle now. It's not so important to have the physical cartridge, although I will say if you've got a family, I think it's probably easier to pass the cart around still if you have a couple of Nintendo Switch consoles. I know that there is some sort of workaround if you have the digital copy, that you can play one digital copy on 2 Nintendo consoles at the same time, as long as I think if you are not logged on in the same account. I believe that's how it works. But I think in general it makes sense to just have the cartridge. But aside from the fact, if you are just a single player, then it's not going to make a difference either way. And I think a lot of people are just single players, buy their own software, and that's why you see a lot of the digital sales just go way up, at least for 2020, not only because of the coronavirus for like 3 months of this, but also because they didn't really need the cartridge anymore. Now, Nintendo also did say previously in their forecast that their software that they were going to sell 17% less units in forecast of financial year 21. So maybe this has something to do with it, because there's not a whole lot of stuff that they've announced. These are the big ones, and they even put Animal Crossing release continuous updates as one of their title releases, so it doesn't sound like they have announced or they have a whole lot, or maybe they're going to announce some more stuff. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot. Even if they put Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics as one of their 3 main titles, that's pretty weak for Nintendo. So I mean, it's not something that is there's anything to be concerned about, but you'd expect them to put something more interesting than that. I'm not sure what this 2020 in Japan is. Maybe somebody can tell me. Pokemon Sword and Shield Expansion Pass and Smash Brothers Fighters Pass Volume 2. All these 3 games these are just expansions or updates. Seems like the only game that's probably coming out is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This is the first game that came out on the Wii and also the DS, although the DS version wasn't very good and you had to have the new 3DS to use it. But actually, with Xenoblade Chronicles, I think they should have held off on Xenoblade 2. I think that was a launch game, or at least the first year of it anyway. I think they should have released Xenoblade Chronicles 1 first, and then and then sold Xenoblade 2 later on. And I think that would have led to a more polished Xenoblade 2. I haven't played it yet, but everyone was very excited about Xenoblade 1 and thought it was a very good game. And there wasn't the same sort of response for Xenoblade 2, I think. I think they should have released 1 first as a remaster, followed by 2. In terms of mobile, there's Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. That is a free-to-play game, I believe, on the mobile. And I guess that probably got a lot of people into the Switch version. Mario Kart Tour has been doing well on mobile. Some stuff on Lego Super Mario and a collaboration with Levi's. This is probably interesting to a lot of Nintendo fans, and you can see that Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, it sold about 6 million at launch, and now it's up to about 17 million, which is just insane numbers. And most of this would be $60 purchases too, Animal Crossing in 6 weeks, this number should be about 13 million. Mario Kart has 24 million. Luigi's Mansion's at 6. Super Mario Maker 2 is at 5 million. Yeah, with Super Mario Maker 2, I think this is an interesting one because the first game came out on Wii U, is arguably the easier game to use because of the stylus, and in the Switch I think you have to use your finger to do a lot of the creation, so I don't know how that would actually play in real life. Super Smash Brothers is such a hit, 18 million units, and another reason why that free-to-play Brawlhalla game is so popular is because if you don't have a Switch or Smash, you can just go and play Brawlhalla, and there's 18 million people that want to play Smash, and surely there's quite a lot of those people who also want to play but don't have a Switch. Now they can just go play Brawlhalla. Brawlhalla, last time in our last episode we covered Brawlhalla as a very successful free-to-play title on both the Switch and also on the other consoles, PS4, Xbox and PC. Breath of the Wild, has been such a critical hit that it's continued to sell, and it's up to 17 million units, which is kind of amazing. Now, this is just for the Switch as well, and obviously I don't think it sold very much on the Wii U, which that's where I bought it on the Wii U. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening's at 4 million, Super Mario Party at 10 million, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe 6 million. Seems like the 2D Marios are still very, very successful. To be able to sell 6 million copies of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is pretty amazing. Super Mario Odyssey is at 17 million units. Fire Emblem 3 Houses 2 million. Ring Fit 2 million. Splatoon's at 10 million. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, which was the previous Pokemon title on the Switch, at 11 million. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon at 1. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, it's done very well, I think, at 1 million. Koei Tecmo would be pretty happy with 1 million units on just the Switch, I believe. Astral Chain, 1 million. But basically, if it's a first-party Nintendo game, it's going to sell 10 million units, almost. And that's probably all the information there is on this financial year report, which I found pretty interesting, especially in terms of the sales numbers for some of these games. We're looking forward now. It says here, April 29 to March 2020, launch dates. Oh right, so this is last year's launch titles. And so let's look at April 2020 and onwards. And again, they really don't have that much that they've announced so far. And maybe they will have a Nintendo Direct soon, because this isn't a whole lot of stuff. So in the US, they've got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on 29th of May, Clubhouse Games on 5th of June, Bravely Default 2 is sometime this year, Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, and the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And who knows, maybe this is the one that will be released at the end of the year. Sequel to the Breath of the Wild. In terms of third-party publishers, Borderlands Legendary Collection is coming out, Bioshock the Collection, XCOM 2 Collection. That's on the releases page of Wikipedia, so you can go and check out the dates for that. Levelheads, Super Mash, Streets of Rage 4, which is already out. Burnout Paradise Remastered is coming. Ninjala, Minecraft Dungeons, The Outer Worlds, Trials of Mana, and Moving Out. So that about does it for the financial year report for Nintendo. Yeah, again, the huge numbers for Nintendo, and I think, if they release more first-party games for financial year 21, expect them to do even better. They reported 33% profit, so no reason why they wouldn't do it again for financial year 21, especially if they launch the sequel to the Breath of the Wild. Alright, let's take a look at our final story, and I wanted to just quickly touch on this because we've noted in the past that if you buy an AMD processor, that if you buy the motherboard, then you'd probably be able to use the future Ryzen processor on your previous motherboard. And now AMD has come out and said that it's probably not the case. It's definitely not the case with the new Zen 3 chip. So I'll just read it. This comes from Tech Power Up. AMD B550 chipset detailed is ready for Zen 3. Older AM4 motherboards not compatible. So in their briefing leading up to today's Ryzen 3 3100 and 3300X review embargo, AMD disclosed that its upcoming Zen 3 4th generation Ryzen desktop processors will only support AMD 500 series or later chipsets. The next-gen processors will not work with older 400 series or 300 series chipsets. This comes as a blow to those who bought premium X470 motherboards hoping for later CPU compatibility running into 2020. At this time, only B550 is available, but we expect more news on enthusiast chipsets as the Zen 3 launch date comes closer. AMD B550 is a fascinating new mid-range chipset by AMD. Launching today as a successor to the popular B450 chipset, B550 is a low-power silicon with roughly the same 5 to 7 watt TDP as the older 400 series chipset. Although AMD won't confirm it, it's likely that the chipset is sourced from AS Media. It brings a lot to the table that could draw buyers away from B450, but it also takes some away. So basically what they're talking about is, if you look at this chart here, if you had X370 board and you had the AMD Ryzen 1000 series processor, you would also be able to use a 2000 processor and a 3000. So if you bought your system a while ago, a couple of years ago, you would be able to put in a 3000 processor. And it was looking the case where you could put the 4000 processor in that same old motherboard, but now AMD is saying that you can't, and it looks like you can only use the new 4000 chip with the new X570 and B550 motherboard. So that's essentially what's happening. Now this was one of the cool things about AMD, was that you could upgrade your processor, because most of the time with Intel you couldn't. Some generations you could, but not all. And this was the thing that, you know, you tell your friends, hey, if you buy this motherboard, you don't have to replace your motherboard later. You can just keep using the same old motherboard, just put the new chip in, which should really be the way it works. But obviously with technology, I mean, there's probably a lot of things that we don't know about and reasons why we can't. So obviously this one, maybe there's a well, I don't know. I believe it's the same 7 nanometer process, but it has a different architecture in it. And it looks like it doesn't work with the older motherboards. And we also know that Zen 3 will unlikely work with future motherboards, so with Zen 4 architecture as well. So if you're buying the Ryzen 4000 later on this year in September, it's probably not going to work with motherboards. Your motherboard that you buy with Zen 3 is probably not going to work with Zen 4. So there's a bit more information there about the new B550 motherboard chipset that you can read yourself. I won't go through it all. It's been a huge show anyway today. And yeah, that about does it for this show. So much stuff that we covered. We talked about Sony and Naughty Dog and The Last of Us 2. We talked about the huge Inside Xbox show that they showed a whole bunch of Xbox Series X games. And we talked about the Nintendo financial year results. And I hope you enjoyed all that information. If you liked this video, please click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.